Okay, guys, so I'm just going to close this down. Okay, I've got my test instruction here, and I've got my website that I was working on. Okay, don't forget. So where we left off was we learned how to create the table, of course. We learned how to import images or photos into our cells. We learned how to manipulate the size, the height and the width of our images, and we learned how to also put in, let me just click on that. We also learned how to, if we double click on it, properties, we learned how to give it alternate text so that if a web browser doesn't pick up a photo, it'll at least have some text in there to see what's there. That's our size, width and height there, and of course it is locked automatically to protect the aspect ratio, which means that the photo will get squished. That's what they're talking about when keeping our aspect ratio, okay? And here, as you can see, this is the name, the source, this is the name of my image. We learned about link as well. Let me just go back here, go to this photo here, the big B2 one, because we actually did put in a link there. So we'll go to properties. Okay, and there it is there, the link. So if I am looking at this web page through a browser, if I put my cursor on this photo, it will prompt me to take me to, if I click on it, it'll take me to that website there, hothousedesign.co.uk. All right, so in a nutshell, that's all we did so far. So we are now going to go on to the style sheet portion of the test. This is perhaps the most difficult part of the Dreamweaver test because you really do have to know some basic HTML code. You have to remember it. It's not user-friendly, and it's basically the difference. If you can get all this stuff here, and you've got all this stuff here, all right, this portion here, the style sheet, it's the difference between getting an A and an A star. So if you can get all this stuff, or even just part of it, okay, there's going to be part marks for this stuff. It's going to be very valuable for the test. So it says you will edit a style sheet which will be attached to this web page. Use the most efficient methods to create and edit the style. All colors and codes must be in 6-digit hexadecimal form. I'll explain what that is. And make sure your style sheet contains no HTML, okay? I'll explain what that means as we go along as well. So let me just reiterate what a style sheet is, okay? Style sheet is that .css file that we've spoken about. And here, it says it here, using a suitable software package, open the style sheet m1531.css. Don't forget, .css files are generic file formats, so that all sorts of applications that make websites can open them up, and Dreamweaver is no exception to that, okay? So a style sheet, a cascading style sheet, or what that does is everything that I create in my style sheet can be applied to different elements throughout my website. Let me give you an example. So, the rhinoceros, if you remember, the rhinoceros, all right, the font type that we chose was the heading H1, all right, and you can see it down here. It's H1 in my code. Now, in a style sheet, I could format H1, or I could format table, or any of these things. I can format it so that every time I choose, say for example, H1, it will be the same format every single time on my website. This just saves me time. So instead of every time I write text and I want it to be H1, instead of changing the font size, the font color, I can just do that in my style sheet, and every time I say something is going to be H1, boom, it will be in this style, okay? And Dreamweaver also already comes with some pre-formatted style sheet elements. So that's why if I select H1 and I haven't done my style sheet, it looks like this, okay? So let's go back there and have a look. So we are going to now open up the style sheet M1531. Okay, so we'll go back to our Dreamweaver. Don't forget, for the last couple of parts, all right, for most of what we've been doing so far, we've been working in the Insert tab. So I now got to click on my Files tab, and I'm back to seeing all of my files here. Okay, so this is the one I want here. This is my style sheet here, m1531.css. I've already opened it up, so I'm going to have a look at it. Once you click on it, it will open it up in a window that looks like this. So let me explain what we have here. All right, table, comma, TD. What this is telling me is that, and this is already, the test gave me this already pre-formatted style for a table, and TD stands for the cells. The cells within a table is TD, don't forget. So what this tells me is that every time I create a table in my website, because it's in my .css folder, every time I create a table, all right, the table and the cells will all have a border of 2 pixels. It will be a solid color. The border will be a solid color of this color here, this hexadecimal value, which is 000040. And if I put my cursor over the hashtag, it'll show me the actual color itself. And my padding will be 2 pixels, and my spacing will be 2 pixels. Okay, so every time I create a table in my website, it will have these elements here. Okay, it's going to have these elements, and note the style of it. Okay, so I tell the style sheet, I tell it what I'm going to change. I name it. I put in the what would be in HTML the tag for it, and then I put a curly Q bracket. And then I type in what I want to do. Okay. The reason the style sheet portion is so difficult is because I have to know some basic HTML code. I have to remember what it is that I'm doing. Okay. So let's have a look at what we're doing. All right. So the next thing it says, save the style sheet in your work area as M531 followed by your Canada number. For example, okay. So let's just do that now. So I'm in my file sheet. And I'm just going to save as, okay, and that's what I wanted, and I'm just going to save it as, okay, I'm going to save it as, I won't put in everything, so underscore, yeah, and you guys will put your full name in there, and your candidate number, and your center. Okay, so I'm just going to save that, and it by default, okay, it's going to save it in the same folder that I've been working on all along, so that's good. I don't have to do anything. And I should be able to see it. Okay, we won't see it yet because we haven't linked it. And I'll explain what we're going to do when we're finished with that. Okay, when we're finished doing our style sheet. All right, so next thing I want to do is add my style sheet to define the background color of the page with these hexadecimal color components, okay? So like we said, all colors are going to express in a hexadecimal value, and they must be preceded by that hashtag there, okay? So I want it to be green, blue, red, and these values here. Now, don't forget, hexadecimal color values. All color values in websites are expressed in an RGB value, an RGB value. Okay, so the test always does this. It always mixes up the numbers and the letter, the number and the color arrangement. So you've got to fix it. You got to know that all colors have to be in an R. Just highlight it in an RGB value. Okay, so, and what does it want me to do? It wants me to make sure that the background color of the page has a hexadecimal color of that. Okay, so this is where I have to know a little bit of HTML. I got to remember that. Okay, so background color is going to apply to my body. So I type in body, and then I just put in a little curly Q bracket. Once I put in the first curly Q bracket, it closes it for me automatically, which is quite nice. And then it'll start to prompt me in alphabetical order of a bunch of things that I want to do. So I know it's going to be the background that I want to change, and I want it to be the background color. So that's great. All right, at least Dreamweaver gives me some hints. and I want it to be an RGB value again. So it has to be a hexadecimal, don't forget. We must first proceed with a hashtag. And it's going to be an RGB value of A2. So I'll type in A2. My A value will be A2. Yep. You can already see that's a red, okay, dark red. My green value will be A8, okay, 8, all right, and my blue value will be 6E. 6E, okay, and that's the color that it is going to be, okay. Now, do I have to change anything else for my background color? It does not. I do not. So I'm done with my background. I'm done with my body, done with my background. I don't have to do anything else. All right, so what I will do, okay, is put in a semicolon. Okay, and you can see up here, right? Every time I have changed a portion of my element, I separate each of those values with a semicolon. So even though I just have one value in here that will change the color of my body, I'm going to end it with a semicolon. I do that because when I add further code, it will make it clear, it'll separate it clearly, and I won't have any mistakes. Okay, so we'll just hit enter. I'm going to enter twice so it's easy for you guys to see. And you can see, yeah, I put my cursor on the hashtag and it shows me the color that I have chosen and that I want to have. Okay, so next thing I want to do, let's see, we got 11 minutes. I think I can do this H1. No, I'm going to do this in another video because it's going to take a bit of time. So the next thing I'm going to do in the next video is I'm going to set the style for my heading 1, my H1. H1 stands for heading 1. It's going to have a height of this pixel and a color component of this. Okay, so yeah, I'll do that in a next video because that is going to take me a little bit of time. All right, see you in the next video, guys.